Hey, welcome everybody to our Learn, Grow, Share Showcase webinar. This is the second webinar we have offered in this series, and we are really excited to have all of you here today. We launched this series as a way to celebrate the work that Extension Master Gardener volunteers are doing across the state. And these are webinars that are actually presented by the volunteers and extension agents who are involved in the projects that are going to be discussed and shared today. And this really gives all of us an opportunity to learn about the inspiring projects and work that's being done across the state by Master Gardener volunteers. It helps us grow our connections with other volunteers and extension professionals across the state, and provides a platform to share ideas for new programs and initiatives that you might want to start in your county. And all of these are focused around projects that help us achieve the Extension Master Gardener mission. And of course, I should mention I am Charlotte Glen, and I am the NC State Extension Master Gardener Program Manager. And again, very happy to have all of you here today. And when we talk about the Extension Master Gardener mission, we're really talking about connecting people with the benefits of gardening. And there are so many benefits of gardening. These include growing fruits and vegetables, so you have better access to nutrition and food security. There are all kinds of mental well-being, physical health benefits of gardening. We can provide wildlife and pollinator habitats for the plants we grow, as well as clean and protect our environment. And make our cities and communities better places and more livable. So we do all of this through our research-based education and outreach, and of course, which Master Gardener volunteers are a critical part of. Today, we're focused on seed libraries, and they definitely help us achieve our mission. This is a wonderful project to be involved in. They create excellent opportunities for public education. People want to learn more about growing fruits and vegetables and plants. They want to learn more about, what they can do with those fruits and vegetables and saving seeds themselves. So all kinds of opportunities arise to have educational programs around seed libraries. They also increase access to resources of our community members, which primarily would be the seeds of vegetables, so they can grow their own fresh produce. So hopefully it increases their access to safe and nutritious, especially vegetables. It encourages participants to apply what they learn, because hopefully they will grow these plants. They'll get some seed from the seed library, grow them, and then they'll save some seed and return them. So they'll kind of pay forward what they learn and what they're able to get through the seed library. And of course, they're an excellent opportunity for community partnerships, and almost always, especially our partnership with local libraries. And I know we have several librarians with us today who've asked to join, and we welcome you as critical partners to these seed libraries. With that, I am just going to give a big general thanks to our presenters today. They're each going to tell us about exciting projects they're working on in their counties. And I'm going to pass it over to Sallie Cune, who I also want to give a really big thanks to. Sallie is an Extension Master Gardener volunteer in Mecklenburg County. She is going to be our MC for the webinar today. And she's also the coordinator for the Learn, Grow, Share case series. So she actually came forward and wanted to work with the program at the state level to provide some kind of opportunity for us all to share what we're doing. So that's how this whole series started. And she does a lot of the behind the scenes work of recruiting speakers and getting things all lined up for us. So with that, one more reminder is if you have questions as we go through, we're going to ask you to please put them in the chat, and we will be calling them out either during the session that the speaker is talking, or we're going to have additional time at the end, hopefully, to address your questions. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Sallie, and say thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Charlotte. I really appreciate it. And thanks for the opportunity. And we've got a fantastic webinar today. So I'm really excited about our speakers and their topics. Today, the speakers are Caroline Ingram. She is an Extension Master Gardener volunteer from Gaston County. We also have Julia Haverstock, Electronic Resources Librarian at Blue Ridge Community College, who collaborates with the Extension in Henderson County. And in Ashe County, we have Blake Williams, who's the horticultural agent, Travis Birdsell, who's the County Extension Director, and Bill Naser, who's the EMG volunteer. In addition, today we have Kyle Hood, who is the Garden Collaborative Extension Associate and represents the SNAP Educational Steps to Health program at NC State. So what you're going to hear about today is seamless coordination within counties, creative partnerships transforming into gardening communities, and a love of local history as seen in the protection, promotion, and sharing of local heirloom varieties. Again, just a friendly reminder around the chat, put your questions in there and we will get around to them as best we can. And we will begin our discussion today with Caroline from the Community Seed Banks at the Gaston Libraries. In addition, Julie Flowers was also involved and she's attending this call. The Gaston County Seed Bank first opened in August 2022, and today they have distributed more than 20,000 seeds. I'll turn it over to Caroline to give you further details.
Thank you so much. All right, guys, let me share my screen. All right, is that sharing for everybody?
Yeah, looks like we got it.
All right, guys, I'm Caroline. I am a master gardener, a fairly new master gardener, and I helped create the Community Seed Bank with the support of our Master Gardener Group president and our extension agent, which is Julie Flowers. She's also on the call today. So I'm going to talk about our seed bank and kind of how we operate. We, like Sallie said, we opened in August of 2022 with this cart here that you see. There's seeds in the top. And we started this seed bank just at the main branch of the Gaston County Library. Our vision for the seed bank is kind of generally just accessible gardening for everybody in our community. We wanted to make sure that at least one of the barriers to gardening, which is, having seeds, that we could take that away. So all of these seeds are available at no cost. Nobody has to sign up for anything if they don't want to. And they're always there between February and October. And our mission is to promote access to seeds. Particularly, we like to focus on open pollinated varieties, heirloom varieties. And in addition to that, provide evidence-based gardening education to the community. I'm not sure about you guys, but when I first started gardening, I read an article online that said I should bake my soil to sterilize it before I started my seeds. So, just having gardening education that you can trust is important, especially for new gardeners. So education is a big part of our seed bank. Some of our goals are to improve food insecurity in our communities. It may seem small, but just being able to have access to food in, even a small space can make a big difference when you're needing, produce and things for your community. And ensuring access to no cost, open pollinated and community adapted seeds. Increase awareness of the Extension Master Gardeners. Our volunteer arm of that, the Master Gardener Group of Gaston County, is also part of that through our classes, and we post information on the seed banks as well and at the library about our events that we have every month, our classes that we have there at the Master Gardener office, as well as information about the Master Gardener classes, things like that that the community can attend. And then to, again, ensure access to evidence-based gardening education. In the beginning, I was a volunteer at the library and a master gardener. So combining those two became the seed bank. And being able to partner with the library was paramount because we have a lot more extended hours than just at the Citizens Resource Center that we have here in Dallas. Being able to be on the bus line in a central location to our community members really allowed us to reach a much more diverse population. And when we started talking about this with the library, they suggested adding the educational component through their adult programming. So through the seed bank, we now host classes once a month on a variety of gardening topics. We teach about soil health, composting. We talk about seed saving, garden planning. We have, anywhere from 20 to we've even had as many as 100 people attend our classes. So that filled up our library, the room we have in the library for us. So we were really excited about that. And then in 2023, so in February of this year, we have expanded to all 10 branches in Gaston County of the library. So any branch that you go to will have a seed bank. It may be just like a small little tea box with seeds, or a larger cart, depending on what kind of space each branch has. But we also have 2 traveling seed banks now, because the Master Gardeners have a booth at 2 of the farmers markets in the county. So with those, they also take seeds and information that we have at the seed bank, soil testing kits, things like that. So the public has a lot of ways to access us and the seed bank. These are just 2 examples. Belmont, our Belmont branch is a smaller branch. So we just have this little small cart up on a ledge in a window, and we post about our classes there. We have this little QR code that will take them to the website. That website links back to all the NC State educational materials, their YouTube, and it links to slideshows that we've had from our previous classes. And then at the Dallas Library, this is an example there. It's kind of out in their foyer. So each branch is able to customize what is good for their office. So far, we have put out over 20,000 seed envelopes that have been distributed into the community just in 2023. So that's something we're really proud of. Like I said earlier, our classes are really well attended. The average is about 30, but like I said, we've had up to 100. Most of it is adult programming, but we did have a class this summer also for kids that was really well attended, and the kids were able to learn about gardening at home, and they were able to plant some seeds to take home. So we have email address sign up. And again, that's not mandatory to participate or use the seed bank, but it's just something if they're interested in hearing more about our classes. And through that sign up list, we have just sent out a survey, so we can survey the people who have used the seed bank this year in order to see what kind of seeds they would like to see for next year, what kind of classes, things like that. That survey will close October 1st. So we're waiting on those results. We also have patrons submit success stories to the library social media, our Master Gardener social media, things like that. Our Master Gardener volunteers, they help label and pack all of the seeds. We're currently getting the vast majority of our seeds from Bentley Seeds. They offer great prices on open pollinated bulk seeds. We typically buy them by the pound. Our goal would be that it would be, self-filling the seed bank as we go along. We're encouraging, obviously, people to save seeds and bring those back so those seeds are adapted to our community. But while we get to that point, we have to fill the seed bank. So we are using bulk seeds to do that. Each branch has their own what we call branch champions. So I manage the Ferguson branch. So that person will just go and check on the branch, make sure they don't need any seeds. They'll help distribute the seeds from our main branch, which is where we pack them. They'll take any printed materials from the extension office, soil testing kits, things like that to each of their branches. We really want to make sure that the library staff are not having to expend a ton of energy on the seed bank. So we have these branch champions that should be there managing that for them. Volunteers can log their hours for educational hours if they attend the classes, and also they will get their volunteer hours for managing their branches. We have a few different community partners. Linda Mingus is an extension agent for the Family and Consumer Sciences. She's partnered with the library to teach canning and other food preservation classes. Our library has something called a Charlie cart, which is actually like a mobile oven and stovetop. So she can teach hands-on canning classes, food preservation, things like that there. So as we move into 2024, we hope to coordinate with the two to use and foods that we've grown from seed bank seeds to kind of tie those two options in for the community. And then through the seed bank classes, we promote other extension offerings as well as the Master Gardener classes. We have a local natural history museum. Nathan Chapman is their farm specialist there. This year, he's taught 2 classes for us at the library, one on soil health and then one on community adapted seeds and the importance of saving seeds that are adapted to our local climate. And then we also have had seed donations from local hardware stores. So being able to coordinate with these other community groups has really, again, just increased the reach that we're able to have in our community. For funding, right now, like I said, the seeds are purchased in bulk. So the other really costs that we have are the envelopes for seeds and the labels. We use a thermal printer, so there's no ink cost, things like that. And we buy the envelopes and the labels in bulk. Initially, the launch, I initially kind of funded it myself. Just, this was a new program for our group. Some people weren't really sure about it. And I was like, I really think this will be great. But as we have grown, we are getting funding from our Master Gardener volunteer group, as well as from the library adult programming budget. And recently we were given money from the board, the library board as well. We've had seed donations from some local businesses. We are seeking donations from larger seed companies, but the Master Gardener Group of Gaston County is not a 501c3. Most of those companies want that. So we don't currently have the status. So we're working through that to see if maybe we can do that under the library's 501c3. And right now, we're really pushing for patrons that have used the seed bank to save those seeds and donate them back to the seed bank. And that will really cut down on a lot of the cost. This is just a photo from one of our classes that we had. Marcus Cyprian, he is our extension program assistant in horticulture and agriculture at our extension office. He works on the gardening program with kids that we have in our schools here. So he taught a class on gardening with kids, where the kids were able to plant seeds and things. And that really helps bring in some younger clientele as well. And then this is just an example of one of our farmers markets with our small little seed bank there. So when we have the traveling seed banks, this is what they're taking. It's just a small little tea box with a few seeds in it, but it also has a lot of community engagement there. All right. I think that's it. Does anybody have any questions about anything?
I think you captured most of the questions. There was a question specifically about, the purchasing the envelope, so you answered that. And somebody did ask how you got the once a month classes started.
So that was a request really from the library to add to their adult programming. And it has really been very successful and very well received in the community. The library was really excited about that so many people were interested. So they promote that on their social media. We promote it on ours as well. We use, I'm starting to plan for next year, but we try to tailor the classes seasonally. So in the fall, we have like cool season crops, things like that. And then in the spring, we'll do like a garden planning. And those are hosted at the library in their auditorium. So that's one Saturday a month. And having the Saturday really helps, again, bring in a bigger group than having things at the Citizens Resource Center, which is typically a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So all those things really help bring in more community members. We haven't had, I see Emily's question, we have not had a lot of people bring in seeds. We don't provide empty envelopes. They can bring them in just even in a Ziploc bag, whatever they have. And there's a little box on some of the carts for donations. And then the Master Gardener volunteers will repackage those with information on them. Let's see, the mobile kitchen cart, Kate, that it's called a Charlie cart. And it's really neat. It's just like a mobile, it's a small stove top and oven. And I think the library had a grant for that, and that's at the Gaston County Library. They use that for different cooking classes. Trish, so our seeds change seasonally. So right now we have cool season seeds in, lettuces, radishes, carrots, kale, spinach, broccoli, cauliflower, things like that. And in the summer, you'll have your tomatoes, different flowers. I will say I would love to have more herbs, but herb seeds are very expensive. Even buying in bulk, it's pretty cost prohibitive, given that we buy like so many at a time. So we haven't had a ton of herbs, but we've had some different flowers, things like that. But thankfully, in the donations we've received, there were a lot of herbs. Susan, the name of that company is Bentley. It's Bentl, I believe it's EY, Bentley Seeds. That has been, they actually donated some seeds to us as well, but they have had the best prices that I've found on buying seeds in bulk, like by the pound. The most expensive seeds are typically peppers and tomatoes, but you can get, you know, a pound of arugula for $10. Yes, we have had some of the master gardeners donate seeds. We've definitely had some of that. Not as many as I'd like. So if you guys are on here, donate me some seeds, please.
And I wanted to mention, you talked about not having a 501c3 with the local Extension Master Gardener program, but that potentially you could work with the library's 501c3, but there might be another opportunity to work with the North Carolina Agricultural Foundation, which is part of NC State University. So
Okay.
you can accept in-kind donations through them. And so if Julie, your agent, will reach out to me or reach out to Kathy Kennel, who's the director there. I have worked with her in the past on some in-kind donations, so that might be an option. And they are a 501c3 organization.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Caroline.
Thank
Great information. Thanks for sharing. Next, we have Julia, a librarian from Blue Ridge Community College, to discuss their seed library, which successfully opened in January 2023, leveraging several partnerships. As a result, an incredible community of gardeners has developed. Pat Horlick, also a librarian and EMG, was also involved and is attending this call. I'll let Julia tell you more.
Thank you, Sallie. It's great to be here. I've learned so much even from the Gaston presentation already, and it's so interesting how different seed libraries get started in different ways. I feel like we are a much more kind of small grassroots library, and so it's hard not to compare. I'm like taking notes and stuff, but I will tell you all about ours. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So like Sallie said, we started really recently, and we are at Blue Ridge Community College in Flat Rock. Our original idea started with a horticulture student who was our work study student. She was really interested in starting a seed library, and I am a lifelong gardener. Both my dad and my granddad on both sides. Everybody's gardeners for a long time, and I grew up gardening. My dad tells a story of the best kale crop that he ever had was the one that my brother and I stomped on when we were toddlers. And so luckily that meant that I was able to say yes to this work study student and not be scared to try this really great new project. And so that was the beginning, and she worked really hard and created this spreadsheet of all of this information. And then she had a personal issue come up, and she was no longer our work study student. And then suddenly I got to take on the invention of this seed library. So using my experience and my knowledge, and then thankfully the internet exists, I pulled from a lot of different resources to get things going. We started our seed library in January because that is when the semester started and our work study student was here. And we had this big idea to do a whole week of events, and you'll see on this slide, I put up our old flyer from that event. So we had a whole series of events, and we are limited by our sort of 8 to 5, 8 to 6 Monday through Friday schedule at the library. But we were really surprised to find a kind of core group of folks that started showing up in this very first series of events that we did in January. We did some workshops, we had some speakers, we did crafts, and then we actually, because we are a library, we subscribe to Canopy, and so we have all these really great documentaries that are based around even seed saving from around the world. So we were able to really have a full week's worth of workshops, and that was really cool. So as a result of that seed week and the advertising that I did just briefly on social media, we were noticed by an individual in Hendersonville who had just started a new Hendersonville gardening group on Facebook. And her name is Becky Bishop, and she's really an incredible networker and person. And she picked up that first event and started advertising in that group. And from there, everything, I call it like the miracle of social media and like personal networking. She invited all her friends. We got the word out to students and faculty. And we really had a great core group of folks that showed up for those. Our library started with just what we had on hand. We had this really not so cute piece of furniture that the library director was like, here, you can use this. And he rolled it over and I kind of made a funny face, and then I cleaned it up and put some little boxes on it that we had in our archive. And here, I'll just fast forward to our picture. Here's our really unattractive piece of furniture, but it turns out it is a cute little corner that we created. And like I said, we're pretty small. These are our 3 little boxes of seeds. We are 1 branch, but in all of that, through the networking that Becky did and our Facebook group, we have grown to having monthly garden events also here at the library with an attendance of anywhere from 20 to 40 people. And those events are done both by master gardeners and other folks from the community. One of our the benefits of being here at the community college is that we do have a horticulture department, and the head of our horticulture department, Rachel Merriweather, is an incredibly knowledgeable person, and she has done a lot of events for us too. Let me go back to our notes. A lot of our motivation for doing this were a lot of what Gaston County spoke to in that, and in addition to the mission of the kind of North Carolina Extension Agency goals for seed libraries, in that we believe that sharing is caring. We wanted to build community. We wanted to support each other and share the knowledge that we have to address issues of food insecurity and to empower people in our community to grow their own food. Let's see, what else was I going to talk about? We used what we got. We did our seed week, and our Hendersonville gardening group was so helpful. So the way that we got started was we had, I solicited seed donations from all of these organizations. We were really fortunate that Eden Brothers gave us a little bit of money to purchase seed from them. We have a very local kids seed company of Asheville who donated seeds. I reached out to High Mowing Seeds, and they have a program where you can buy slightly out of date seeds. We did have a small budget of $200 that I used to primarily purchase seeds, and we miraculously found some of those cute little envelopes, the coin envelopes that we used for the beginning of our seed library. I also reached out to friends and neighbors. I'm really lucky. My next door neighbor is a master gardener, and he has a really incredible acres worth of yard that he gardens and saves seeds and propagates things. And so folks like that were able to donate seeds. And then in that first seed week, we had master gardeners and other community members already bringing seeds in to donate to the seed library. So we had a really great response to our library from the very beginning, and really, really willing people who made their way to seek out our library. I think the timing was really great for us. Because we started in January, it's been really interesting to watch things develop. We got the attention of people. We got the attention of people early on in January, and then since then, there are seed libraries that have opened at the county public libraries, both in Henderson County and in Transylvania County. There were already existing seed libraries in Buncombe County. And so a lot of what I did in planning this was to essentially copy what everybody else was doing. And that's part of the model of kind of open source things in libraries, and the way libraries and library communities share information is that we all kind of borrow great ideas from each other. And so I was really able to lean on these community organizations that were already doing it. And then I have also been able to collaborate with community organizations that have come along even slightly after us. So it's been a really great collaborative experience. What's my next slide? Well, there's me and our cute little seed library and our weird piece of furniture. And then this is just a picture of our library group and our library. And it's been a really incredible thing. We have both people that show up every month to our events, but then we also have new people every time. And it's been just a really great way to get to know our community. And like I said, I think it was really great timing, and that something like this didn't necessarily exist before this spring. And so people were really excited to all come together and share resources. We've supplemented the Seed Library programming with things like a houseplant swap. Folks bring, at each meeting, we tend to have, we end up having a raffle prize, like folks that come, like we just had our monthly event this week, and one of our members, it was actually Becky Bishop, who's kind of our one of our main networking volunteers, and she brought apple butter that she had made from the apples that grow in our orchard on campus, and so we raffled off her apple butter. Everybody kind of brings their extraneous garden produce and things like that. So we're really sharing not just seeds, but knowledge and information and vegetables and all kinds of really great things. And I'm really grateful for all of that. Another component of what our Seed Library does is that we have been able to give larger amounts of seed to community organizations that are also doing work around education and solidarity and mutual aid. Tierra Fertile Co-op is a group that grows food and sells food at markets, both in Henderson County and in Buncombe County. And they are teaching an escuela campesina for, I think, primarily Spanish-speaking folks in the Henderson County area. And they donated seed. They donated seed that we donated to them for the participants in their escuela campesina. Caja Solidaria, I spelled it wrong, it's Caja, not Casa. So it's Solidarity Box. So they are a group here in Henderson County that also distributes food for free to people in the community. We have donated seeds to them as sort of a satellite person who, or group who distributes seeds. Most recently, we have given seeds to the Allison Dever House, which is a historical house in Transylvania County. And they are doing an exhibit, I believe, on Cherokee masks. And so part of the programming surrounding that exhibit, they are hosting a Three Sisters dinner that I believe, I don't have exactly accurate information, but I believe the extension agent volunteers from Transylvania County are providing this dinner, but then our Seed Library has donated the seed as kind of a door prize or like party favor for the folks who are able to attend that dinner that is attached to the exhibit. So it's like this whole great amalgamation of collaboration between all these really great projects and organizations. We're also donating seed as part of a Hidden Histories bus tour that's happening in November that the United Way and the Black History Research Group are presenting. And the seed is again part of the swag bag and is part of kind of what we're sharing as historical elements of the agricultural community and the Black history and Latino history of Henderson County. So those are some of the projects that we are uniquely working on with other groups in the community. One of the things that the organization, your organization, the extension agent asked us to do, I gotta back up. I have to introduce Pat. I have it in my notes. Hold on. Okay. So we have been supported by the extension agent in Henderson County the whole way, every step of the way. And I'm gonna introduce my co-worker and friend, Pat Horlick, who not only is a librarian, but she's also a master gardener. And we're so lucky that she's a part of our library and that she just kind of fit right into this whole project. And she's going to tell us a little bit more about how the extension agent is specifically been so helpful to us. So Pat.
So this has been a tremendous joy for me to have all of this come together, to be a librarian and a master gardener and work in the library and work with Julia on this has been a real treasure. But I wanted to kind of just call out some of the things, the connections that were made and the things that the extension office and the master gardeners helped with supporting this whole process. So for example, when the project started and plans were made for presentations, I went over to the Henderson County Extension office and brought back soil test kits and printed handouts. Steve Pettis, our Henderson County Extension agent who teaches and manages our Master Gardener program, attended the first event, answered questions, took pictures, uploaded them to the Extension Facebook page to get the word out. Isaac Wyatt, our Extension program assistant, has attended and participated in many of our discussion groups. In specific ways, the Master Gardeners provided support. I did a seed starting workshop. Another Master Gardener did a presentation on organic pest control. 2 Master Gardeners presented this week about the pollinator garden that they brought forward from nothing at all in one of our county parks, and it's just beautiful. Master Gardeners offered to distribute our seed library brochures at Farm City Day, one of our large local events. And they've also attended the events along with students and faculty and staff and the very active local gardening group. So this has just been a great team effort, and follows our mission, providing support for horticulture education-based projects like these. It's so much a part of what we do as Master Gardeners. It's just been a pleasure for me to be involved in this one. So I'll turn it back over to Julia for her tips.
Thanks, Pat. So we were asked to provide tips for how the extension agent could support libraries doing this work, and I feel like as a librarian I can speak to that. One of the greatest things was that Steve Pettis showed up to our meetings for this group that had just gotten rolling, and it was really incredible for him to be there. But then also they were so ready with resources, soil kits and beginning garden flyers. Those 2 particular things have been really instrumental in connecting the extension agency to our seed library. And they are things that the folks at the events ask for every time. Every time somebody asks a question about how to get their plants to grow, we're like, how about these free soil kits that are right here? And so having them on site has really made it really easy to connect the extension agency with folks who need their assistance. And they don't even have to make a special trip for any of those handouts or any of those soil kits. So that's been really great. Having the extension agent help with marketing, both online and at in-person events. Like Pat mentioned, at the Farm City Day, they're going to have our seed library flyers at their events, so that hopefully that will be kind of a win-win partnership in which they are advertising this resource, and we will then hopefully get more folks to come visit our seed library. And then again, like Pat said, the Master Gardeners have been incredible support for us, and the Extension Office has done a really great job at connecting the Master Gardeners with our group, so that we have folks both to help with expertise and to be actual event presenters. So that's most of what I have to share about today. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can actually see if there are questions. But if anybody else has questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Scrolling up. Awesome. So I see I am not going to the library conference, unfortunately. My schedule is packed because in addition to running this really cute seed library, I also teach library classes and do all kinds of things and basically run the whole library. So I don't have time to skip out this time, but hopefully I will next time. I would be happy to collaborate with anybody about how we have kind of gotten this grassroots thing going, and would love to talk more to anybody. So thank you all for your attention and your time.
All right. Thank you very much, Julia and Pat. Appreciate the information. Very helpful. Great insight. So let's see, our next presenters, we have Blake, Travis, and Bill from Ashe County Victory Garden. This project is a history lesson, as well as a dedication to showcasing and sharing heirloom and locally adapted varieties. Travis, let the history lesson begin.
And y'all are mute. There you go.
There. Now you can see and hear who I am. Prior to being the county extension director, I did serve as the horticulture agent and the master gardener coordinator, which in 2014 we revitalized and started our extension master gardener program in Ashe County all over. So the next couple of years was really a development period in trying to find volunteer opportunities. And it started with a conversation with the executive director at our Museum of Ashe County History, which is actually located in our old courthouse. And from there, we started talking about a victory garden. And the reason was that at the museum at that time, there was a World War I and World War II exhibit inside of the museum. So they had this unused plot in the back of the museum, and it really was awful. It was construction soil. They had asked if we could grow something in it. So I did attempt to take a soil sample. I stuck a soil probe, or tried to stick a soil probe in there, and it went down about 1/4 of an inch. And that was the time that I determined that we were not going to be planting in the ground. So we decided to do raised beds. And the primary reason there was that it could ensure a higher rate of success. We could also teach out of those raised beds. And then they were just easier functioning for people moving around to see this as part of a living exhibit at the museum. So in 2015, we began construction in the fall, and by the next spring, we had boxes made. We laid landscape fabric down, and we put washed stone on top of that landscape fabric, created edging. We were able to do this by incorporating several sponsors in the community, which included Farm Bureau, our county sponsoring it, local farm supplies, local landscapers, and we were ready to start growing. We had also mixed the soil ourselves from raw products, peat moss, perlite, cow manure, and aged pine bark fines. And then we started growing something. So why a victory garden? What I would say is originally victory gardens were established in World War I and World War II, and were also called war gardens, but they were also called food gardens for defense. And historically, they were just vegetable, fruit, and herb gardens that were planted at private residences or public spaces. And governments encourage people to plant victory gardens to reduce the pressure on the food supply and to also boost morale. So that was where we started. And then the first year was really about just growing something and harvesting something. It was about succeeding, being gardeners. And there was a lot of education there with our master gardeners, and we had decided to donate the produce to a local food pantry. During that year, I had also had a personal interest in the seeds and heritage seeds that were in Ashe County that my family had been growing in our garden for generations. And I'd heard about those stories growing up. So started investigating that, started asking some people on the museum board about heirloom seeds and heritage seeds. And they shared an incredible wealth of knowledge and even brought seeds to me. And throughout that year, I collected at least enough that we could potentially have a different variety in every bed. So working with the master gardeners, we decided to shift our focus to it being a historical exhibit that grew Ashe County heritage vegetables in those beds. It also shared the stories of those vegetables, and then we would save the seeds from it. And simultaneously, there was also an effort by Blue Ridge Women in Agriculture with our local library and Cooperative Extension to create a seed library at our Ashe County Public Library. And so we also had a feeder to get that back out to the community. So in 2017, we started growing these for seed. Now, at the same time, we also try to educate gardeners too. So there's an ability to create beautiful gardens while also creating something historical and productive. We had a local source for bamboo, and because green beans are so prevalent in Ashe County, a lot of our different varieties were green beans. We were able to use this garden to also demonstrate different trellising techniques and how to incorporate those into a garden. So we started growing these, putting them out there, and the collection over the years has grown to where we can just about put 11 new varieties into the garden every year and rotate them based on what is being utilized through the seed library and how their stocks are dwindling or maintained. And I'll share one of those stories with you at this point that I think is pretty cool. The gentleman here in that picture was taken in 2020 during the pandemic, which, if you all remember that, it wasn't that long ago, but seed became hugely scarce. So that was a time when our seed library shifted and you were able to send in a request and they would mail them out to you here in the county. So people could get those when they couldn't get them from seed catalogs. But what he's holding is, after his growing year in 2020, a big red oxheart tomato. And we call it Rourke's Big Red. But how this tomato came about, in 2017, I was just contacted by a local tree grower that had bought a place and asked if I wanted to come pick the top of the barn. So I was in the top of this old barn, just going through, sorting through stuff. And I found an old grocery sack that was from Food Line, and it had seeds smeared all across it. And one of the names said Big Red, and there was another one that said Yellow Pear. So I collected all those seeds and thought, well, maybe one of them could grow. I didn't have a lot of hope because the emblem for the Food Line had dated the bag to the late 70s. So took all those seeds, tried to germinate them. I got one seed to germinate, and from that seed was able to save them. And the next year we were able to grow out a full bed of these oxhearts. And the cool thing about that barn was, and this is a picture, this is that tomato, if you can see that. That's the average size of it. We've grown some as big as 3.5, almost 4 pounds. But it was the Rourke family's barn, and up there were trunks full of pictures, and I was able to find pictures from the 1930s with them holding this tomato. And since that time, it's become a garden favorite. We just about have to include it every year because of how big it is and how much people enjoy that tomato. But the coolest part has been how our community has rallied around this project, the stories that are incorporated into it, and through it, we've been able to also offer seed saving workshops to teach people how to save this seed. And it's my belief that our living history through seeds, the best place to save it is in people's gardens. We continuously grow it, we can preserve it. And while if you come to Ashe County, you can see our heritage vegetables. So you can't reproduce those stories in other places. What I am positive about is that every county has their own heritage seeds and their own stories, and that this project is completely reproducible in any area. So after that history, I'll turn it over to Blake to give some present information.
Yeah, and I'm just going to go over kind of Extension's role in all of this, and some important economic factors that we figured out over the years. But the Victory Garden for Extension is a great opportunity and a great teaching tool. You know, it started out with Travis using it as an actual, not a seed saving garden, but to fight hunger and to donate to local seed pantries. And there's a lot of teaching that can go into that, in making raised beds and actually growing produce and harvesting it right. And I would say a seed saving garden actually has more opportunities for education, because you not only have to successfully grow you know, a crop like green beans till it's ready to harvest, but you have to be able to grow it until it's past harvest in a lot of cases. And there's not a whole lot of hands-on activities out there on how to properly save seed and dry seed and store it. So we get an ample opportunity and a great opportunity to share that knowledge every year. Travis, when I first started 2 years ago here, shared the story that the first time the master gardeners grew a local pickling cucumber, the Hodgson pickling cucumber in the Victory Garden. The master gardener started bringing the cucumbers green to him. And we had to have a long conversation about, okay, we can't actually save seed from green cucumbers. We've got to actually let them ripen up all the way to yellow. But we don't typically know that just based off of our usual garden experience. So, you know, to be successful gardeners, I feel like, or really to be more complete gardeners, it's really important for us to know the full process. And one of the full processes here, I'm just gonna talk about. So this is an example of one of our bean drying racks. And you know, so we have to go through and make sure these beans are fully dry on the vines. So we don't typically pick them as like with this pink tip bean. I'll pick that one too. Yeah, with this pink tip bean, everybody knows you pick a pink tip whenever the tip is pink, like that example there. But actually, if you let it ripen all the way, it starts turning fully pink. And then eventually what you're after is a fully dried bean like that. And you're going to get your best germination rates if you let that bean dry out completely. So we get to go over that with the master gardeners. And this is one of our drying racks. And then after we get everything dried for the season, we have to go through and sort it. So this is our master gardener group this year. We're hand counting beans here. We've already separated out, you know, beans that we don't want to save because of disease purposes. So we're only saving the best of the best. And it's a lot of work to hand count out seeds after you've processed them all the way to this point. And then our final product that the master gardeners help us produce are the seed packets, Ashe County Victory Garden. And this is a great project in and of itself because it adheres to all the NCDA labeling laws for distributing seeds. And so we get to talk about that with the master gardeners, and we get to go over germination tests and purity and lot numbers and how that is all traceable and important to our food system and for food security. Yeah, and then the last little thing to talk about here, with all that, and from Extension's role, it's really hard to document and to figure out the impact you're making in the community. Yes, we're saving a lot of stories, and you know, people in the system know. Yeah, people know that we're saving a lot of history, we're saving a lot of seed. We do seed swaps so that we can get numbers of how many people we've reached and the community impact. But those are all metrics that are really hard to identify with. And so my first year working here in Extension, Bill, who's going to speak in a minute, brought me that season's Victory Garden seeds. And he just happened to bring me a Talenti jar full of the Ashe County pimento pepper. Full, absolutely. Yeah. And so one of the cool things is just so happened to be on my desk, we had Baker's Creek Heirloom Seeds seed catalog, which featured the Ashe County pimento pepper in it that year. And if you looked at the price of those seeds, it's $3 for 10 seeds. And I just so happened to have a full Talenti jar full of these seeds. And I was like, I wonder how much that's worth. And so I went and counted out about 1,000 seeds and weighed them, and then weighed the whole jar, and came to the realization that I had a jar of Talenti or Ashe County pimento pepper seeds worth about $10,000 sitting on my desk. And it was like, wow. Oh, wow, let's count everything else and compare it and get an estimated value of what it's worth. And so today, the 2 years I've been working with Ashe County Extension, we have saved over $30,000 worth of heirloom seeds when compared to other, if you had to buy that. And it's all going back to the community. Really, it's divided into thirds, and Bill's going to talk about that in a second. But a third of it goes to the High Country Seed Library at Ashe County. A third of that goes to the seed swap and gets distributed, really almost all of that third. And then a third of it stays with us. And that's also just a resiliency thing. so that we're not all dependent on one seed library. It's all backed up, because really there's a huge cultural significance with the seed we're saving.
And we get requests here at the office for it too, but the other cool thing is the Baker Creek has actually been to Ashe County. That was where they did a photo shoot for the Ashe County pimento pepper, and they got the write up by talking with us. So they took pictures in the Victory Garden. And that's just a really another cool thing of getting that out there. That Ashe County pimento pepper has also been featured in Garden and Gun magazine. So those are awesome educational pieces that we get to add to it. Bill, you want to take it away?
Yeah, I'm Bill Naser, and I am one of the master gardeners. I've been a master gardener for, this is my 7th year. We have 16 gardeners in our group, so it's a fairly small group. And we have 3 projects that we do through the year. The first one, Blake and Travis have talked about, is the master garden, the Victory Garden itself. We together start at the end of May and prepare the beds, build the trellises, mostly out of bamboo, and then plant the seeds. And then for the rest of the summer, we sit back and have a schedule where we water, weed. We also have 6 heirloom apple trees that we have at the garden as well. Instead of picking, when people would normally pick to eat, we leave the seeds, as Blake was saying, we leave the beans on the vines until they get a little bit crispy. And we're in the process now of taking those off. And in the next week or so, we will pop those crispy pods open and take the seeds out. And we, again, together sit around the table and count those things out and put them in these envelopes that Blake had shown you, and take them to the library. The library puts them in what we used to call a card catalog, with the little box with all the drawers in it, before they had computers to look that up. And we work closely with the seed saving people at the Ashe County Library. And they check, people can check the seeds out and grow them in their own garden. Blake had that picture of the gentleman with the oxheart tomato, and that came through master gardeners taking the seed over to the library. When we first started, the first 2 years, as Travis said, first 2 years we took the seeds, or took the produce that we grew and took it to a food bank that's in this area. And I would walk in with this bag of peppers and tomatoes and cucumbers, and I kept thinking, we're not making a dent in what Ashe County needs for helping food. But at the end of the year, Travis told us that we had accumulated over 400 pounds of food that we took to that bank. In a similar way, with the Morris's 191 pole beans, Travis had found those. He talked to a farmer who had grown them. This gentleman had retired in 1980, and this was about 2015 when he talked to him. And just kind of a maybe if, he decided to leave a plastic bag of these seeds in his freezer. And these had been in his freezer since 1980. Travis got them in 2015, and we planted them. And they grew really well. And this has been a major crop in Ashe through obviously 50s, 60s, and 70s. And it employed a lot of people. Travis said that what he'd like to do is get enough Morris 191 whole beans to plant a whole field. And when he said that, I kind of was skeptical. I mean, we had a 4x8 bed we were growing these things in. But we've done it. And he has worked with a local farmer who has taken them and he's growing them and sells them through Ingles grocery store, what had been saved by the Ashe County Master Gardeners.
And you can read about that in the May issue of Our State magazine if you would like.
That's what I was just going to say. So the oxheart tomatoes and the Morris Pole 191 beans are our 2 success stories. Second thing we do is a seed swap. We give away about a third of the seeds we save and put in the envelopes. Give away about a third of them at our seed swap. I had never been involved with the seed swap until I became a master gardener. And the part of it that really surprises me is how much the public gets involved. They don't just come to take seeds, they come with plastic bags of them, sometimes labeled. Other times they just put a pile of last year's zinnia seeds on the table, and people come with envelopes and just take them all home. There's a great deal of interest in it, and we are a major part of it.
And just to continue with that, the High Country Seed Swap was started by Richard Boylan, our small farm specialist agent here in the High Country. But it's been running for 20 years, so it's had a great time to mature and develop, and it's a great event.
Yeah, and one of those first seed swaps is actually where the Ashe County pimento pepper was brought and found and preserved.
The third thing that we do as a group is what we call Heritage Days. Ashe County has 3 elementary schools, and we take the 4th graders from those schools, and one day for each school. The third one was this morning. They come to the Ashe County History Museum, which you can see in the background in that picture on the left. And we have about 6 or 7 stations around the building where the kids come, and they rotate every 15 minutes. And they get lessons, a quick lesson. And the one in that picture is how to build a log cabin. We are rebuilding a log cabin that is moved from another area in Ashe to the grounds of the History Museum, and rebuilding it. So the kids came out and they saw the tools that a pioneer would use to build this log cabin, and how precise the cuts have to be. We had another one where we took apples and pressed them, got apple cider, and they saw how the press works. We have one that's an old one in the museum, and we haul it out in the back, and they actually press the apples, make cider. We've got a dairy farmer that comes to explain the dairy industry in Ashe. Another where woman who runs a barbecue restaurant. They sell country hams, and she explains the process of curing a ham. But anyway, they get a quick introduction to the heritage of Ashe County and their history.
And the significance of that is, the Victory Garden is a living history museum exhibit. And we've had it in the past where Heritage Days has even focused on the Victory Garden, and each little bit of the beds and the beans being grown there has been an exhibit and a station for that day. And so a lot of what we're doing is trying to get back to the community in the fact that it's a history lesson.
And have them learn how to string beans, how different beans have different flavor. And it's just an opportunity for them to experience heritage vegetables. So I think that wraps up our program, and we'd be happy to entertain any questions, or we could wait till after the money man Kyle tells us.
Great. Okay. What do we do?
Well,
Good. Thank you for screwing it up.
Thanks.
let's see, do we have any questions? Charlotte, you see?
I think maybe let's let Kyle present, and then we can come back and just hit on any unanswered questions.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Blake, Travis, and Bill. Appreciate the wonderful history lesson. To round out our panel, we have Kyle Hood, and as a reminder, he is the Garden Collaborative Extension Associate for the SNAP Ed Steps to Health program at NC State. And he's going to share with us financial and technical assistance available to qualifying seed libraries in North Carolina through the Steps to Health program. Kyle?
Hey, Sally, thanks for that introduction. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, Money Man, that's a new nickname for me, but sure, I'll go with that. I've actually had the chance to go to the Ashe County Seed Swap and get some Ashe County pimento pepper seeds and some oxheart seeds and grew them in my garden this year. So it's really great to go to an event like that and come home with all these heirloom seeds. And like Blake said, that would cost a lot of money if you're going to buy all those seeds. And some deer ate my Ashe County pimentos this year. So now I'm wondering, after Blake's story, how much money did the deer eat from my garden? But I'll think about that after this. But today I'm going to share some about the Steps to Health program and the support that we offer for seed libraries and garden projects in North Carolina. And to do that, I have to explain really what is the Steps to Health program. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of SNAP-Ed programs in North Carolina. Steps to Health is really just North Carolina State University's branded SNAP-Ed program. So there's 166 agencies in the US that have SNAP-Ed programs. Again, Steps to Health is just NC State's version of that. And all those programs have the same goal, and that's to increase the likelihood that people who are eligible for SNAP benefits will make healthy food choices. And all those SNAP-Ed programs get to pick how they achieve that goal. And Steps to Health has really two ways that we try to achieve that goal. And the first is through direct education initiatives. So we partner with family and consumer science agents and really any extension agents that do nutrition education in our state. And they go into schools and senior centers and teach our curricula that really focus on nutrition education. So to the right, you see a picture of a family consumer science agent teaching one of our curricula. We have agents all over the state who teach that. But for today, we're really focused on the other way we achieve this goal, which is through policy, systems, and environmental changes. And for the purpose of today, we're focused on these environmental changes. How can we make the environment that people live in healthier? And you have three examples of environmental changes below on these pictures. So we have a sign that Steps to Health funded, so people driving by just get a reminder to eat the rainbow every day. We have a tiny little seed library, so hopefully people in this community are more encouraged to garden, get out, do some physical activity, and eat the healthy produce they're growing. Just another way to make the environment that we live in healthier. And just a sign for a borrowing kitchen, so people in that community can hopefully cook healthy and nutritious food where they might not have been able to before. And that leads us to why Steps to Health is so passionate about seed libraries and why we have support for seed libraries in North Carolina. If our goal is nutrition, then teaching people how to grow healthy food, is a very natural fit for that goal. And this is actually a picture of a seed library that we help fund in Cleveland County at the library there. We've actually funded the seed library for two years in a row, and we have plans to help them expand their seed library next year to 2 other locations as well. But now talk about sort of how our funding works. So the first big question is, who is eligible for our funding? And really, because we're a SNAP-Ed program, we have to serve an audience that is mostly eligible for SNAP benefits. So the way we achieve that is we look at location data, and as long as 50% of the people living in that location are eligible for SNAP benefits, we can work with that site. So I live in Allegheny County, which is a very rural county. Pretty much the whole county meets that need. So the library here, we could work with that library to start a seed library. If you're not eligible just based off that location data, which is the case sometimes, there are other things we can do. For example, the Ashe County Library is not eligible based off just the location data, but there is public housing right down the road, and people could walk from public housing to the library. So I could make the argument to our funder that this library does serve our population. We could help them. That argument doesn't always work, but that's kind of how our process works. And then if you are eligible for our funding, what can you buy with our funding? So we work with existing seed libraries and startup seed libraries. So if you're thinking about starting one, you can purchase the actual infrastructure. So maybe you want to do a cart catalog system, or there's tons of different ways to actually place the seeds in your library or whatever it's going to be stored. We can help you purchase the actual infrastructure for the seed library, or if you already have all the infrastructure you need and maybe you need more money for seeds, we can help support you by just buying seeds for you. So we actually have $600 per site for these seed library grants. And again, as long as you're eligible based off that location data or some other way, then you can access our funding. And then how does the actual funding process work? So really, you can just reach out to me. If you work with a seed library that is interested in funding, reach out to me and we can have a conversation. I'm going to leave my email at the end of this presentation. So yeah, you just need to shoot me an email and we can chat about it. And I can either figure out if you're eligible and then what steps we need to take from there. Once you're eligible, really, we just need to make a plan and create a budget. And it's pretty simple. We try to make it a pretty streamlined process. I've managed community gardens in the past, and I know how hard it is just to apply for grants and win them. So we've tried to make it a much more seamless process as steps to help. And while I have the attention of the Master Gardeners, I figure it's the perfect group for this. We also have garden funding as well. So our garden funding is the same in terms of eligibility. It has to be at a site that is eligible based off that location data. Most schools that, I live near, every school in Ashe County and Allegheny County are eligible for our funding automatically just based off their location. So we do a lot of garden projects in schools. We have $600 for those projects as well. And here's some pictures of some garden projects we worked with. And then what can you buy with our funding? It's a little bit more restrictive with our garden funding. We can't purchase infrastructure like a shed, but really anything you need for the actual garden beds or soil or seeds or tools, we can usually purchase those items for your garden project. The only real caveat that's different than the seed library funding with the garden funding is that the people working and learning in the garden, they need to be that SNAP eligible population. So let's say you have a group of master gardeners who donate all their seeds or all their food to the food pantry. That's great that the people that are eating that food are low income, hopefully, but for our purposes, it needs to be a learning garden for those people who are eligible for SNAP. So that's kind of the biggest caveat, and that's probably why most of our gardens are in schools. But that's the biggest difference between our seed library funding and our garden funding. And then the funding process works exactly the same. You reach out to me if you're interested in our garden funding. We can support next year 75 gardens. We had room for 50 gardens last year, and we maxed out in March, which is a lot earlier than we were expecting. So we kind of raised that threshold to 75, and we'll kind of see what happens with that this year. And here's just one of the gardens that we supported last year. This is at a food pantry in Forsyth County. The food pantry manager just wanted a garden that people that are using the food pantry could see and pick from when they wanted to. That's actually the family consumer science agent who's watering some of the seedlings, or some of the seeds we planted. So we bought them soil and seeds. And here is a garden at an elementary school in Allegheny County. This is actually in the pre-K playground at this school. We purchased some fresh soil for them, some seeds and some garden beds. And here's a picture of their herb garden as well. So these kids are getting to, at least be exposed to a garden every single time they go play in their playground. And again, if you're interested in either our garden funding or our seed library funding, just send me an email. I'd be happy to chat with you and see if your project sort of fits what we're looking for. But I'm happy to answer questions now too, as I'm sure there's a few in the chat.
I had a quick question, Kyle. You mentioned you had funding for 75 gardens in 2024. Is that a separate pot of funding as there is for seed libraries, or is it the same
great
pot?
Question. So we had the seed libraries in a much larger pot of funding for a huge swath of our projects. I don't know that we've an exact number of seed libraries that we can max out at. I mean, we only funded 2 last year, so there's a lot of room to grow. I don't expect we'd hit a max number this year. But with gardens, like I said, last year we supported 50. We thought we wouldn't hit that number, and we hit it before the growing season was even really rolling. So we'll kind of see where that leaves us this year with 75.
Any other questions? All right.
I
Well,
have a question. Actually, it's real quick. I've been one of these people, I've been collecting seeds, but then the question is how to process them. Where do I find out how to do that? Did you hear? No.
yeah, we heard your question.
Okay.
Processing, are you referring to cleaning them and storing
Yes,
them?
cleaning them. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We'll pull together some, I don't know that NC State Extension has anything specific. And if any of our agents out there do, please drop that in the chat. But I have definitely seen some fact sheets and things from other extension systems from other states that we'll pull together and include with the follow-up resources. Because it does vary by the type of vegetable or plant you're saving the seed from, as far as how you clean it and how you store it. So yeah, unfortunately, it's not just a one-size-fits-all recommendation.
It really
But
varies seed
yeah,
to
go ahead.
seed. It really just varies seed to seed, but Seed Savers Exchange is a really good resource, and they actually have a book. And that's kind of what I used, especially when I first started saving seeds, because it is so different. And their book is great. And I use that a lot to kind of look forward to see, how I need to treat each seed.
And Charlotte, that's part of the seed saving workshops that we've done in the past have been around that. And I really broke them up into, and I think there was a question on cross-pollination in our garden too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they all tie together, that it was basically a beginners, intermediate, and advanced seed saving program. So there were 3 different programs. For us, fortunately, green beans are one of the easiest things to grow and save seed on, because you let them dry, you shell them out. But from a cross-pollination perspective, it's very limited as well, because those flowers are pollinated actually before the flowers fully open up. So in our raised beds, we've got our 3-foot path in between the beds, and then generally grow towards the center of the bed, and that's enough space for us to prevent cross-pollination for most of the vegetables that we're growing. We do have to pay attention on our cucumbers, what's growing in and around in the neighborhood, to make sure that there's not cross-pollination with those, and that gets into some of the more advanced seed saving as well, talking about isolation and wind pollination and the distance of having those vegetables apart from each other.
Yeah, I think there was a question that came in the chat while y'all were presenting, Travis, about if there was a link to the online gardening series. Was that something that y'all mentioned? I know multiple ones of our presenters have talked about classes and things that are offered as part of their seed library. And so were the classes you've offered, have they ever been done online, or are they in
Have
person?
been done online, but I can certainly make those presentations available on the intranet.
Oh, that'd be fabulous.
We also record our events, and we did one really recently about seed saving, in which our horticulture head did a really great demo, both of wet and dry seed saving, and we all learned a lot, and I can share that link too. Fantastic.
We'll Sallie and I'll do we'll reach out to all of our presenters and gather up these amazing resources they're offering to share, and get them all together and packaged and available with the recording.
Yeah, I have my hand up, but you probably can't see it, so I'll just speak out.
Thank you.
I'm an anthropologist, and I'm also a master gardener, and it just occurred to me what a wonderful opportunity for us to go out and interview elders who remember those types of vegetables that they used to grow in the Victory Gardens, et cetera, and potentially might still have some that they're saving and using. So, you know, another level to this too.
And that's absolutely correct. And one of the things that's developed out of ours is currently we're contracting with a local film studio, and we are creating a 25-minute documentary on the history of the green bean industry in Ashe County. And all of that is interviews with people that were actively participating in that industry.
Well, and here's another plug for libraries. A lot of libraries will have oral history equipment. If you know someone that you would like to record a story for example, Buncombe County has mobile backpacks that you can take that have recorders and information like that. And we actually just also built a recording studio here in our library. So check out your library if you have a kind of personal interest in doing that. And they may also have kind of larger projects that they're asking the community for help with.
Wow, fantastic connections, you guys. Thanks for sharing all this fantastic information and being willing for people to reach out to you and follow up and ask additional questions. We really appreciate that. Charlotte, was there anything else we wanted to cover?
I did just have a few wrap-up slides. If there were any other questions or no one, you know, anybody else wanted to share anything, I could go ahead and get those.
Well, let's see, while you're looking for that, will it take a second or so? I don't know if anyone else has seed libraries in your counties that are a little bit different than what we've heard today. If you want to share anything quickly with us.
Susan, wait, I don't know if it's a internet connection issue, but your sound was really high pitched. It actually almost sounded like the bees may have been talking to us. So it may be your. Unfortunately, that was still really jumbled for us, so we couldn't make that out. But I encourage you to, if you had a question or if you had something you were going to share, if you can pop that in the chat, that would be fantastic.
All right.
And okay. And well, I'll go ahead and do my little bit of wrap-up slides. I'll actually share, I reached out to the North Carolina Department of Agriculture about a month ago, you know, because I had seen reference online to some concerns in some states about seed libraries and there being issues with the local Department of Agriculture. But we had some conversations back and forth, and, you know, so it sounds like their biggest concern would be about the potential to spread noxious weeds, especially. So, you know, just some general best practices I wanted to make sure and share, and which have been touched upon by some of our presenters for sure, would be, let's make sure we're not sharing anything that we don't intend to share, and we certainly don't want to be a source for any type of weeds, and especially noxious weeds or invasive plants. So, you know, if you are helping with a seed library, and especially if you are accepting donations just from the general public, I would really encourage you to have a process to inspect those seeds and just kind of take a look at them and say, you know, I've grown beans. I know what bean seed look like, and you know, is what in this packet what I would expect bean seed to look like. So just take a look at them and say, yeah, this looks like what I think it would. Are there, and pay attention, like, well, are there some little round seed in here as well as the bigger, more bean shaped seed, for example? You know, look for things that appear off type, that don't look like the same type of seed. For example, if I were to tell you the seeds pictured here were bean seed, I don't know if anybody would agree with that, because those are actually watermelon seed. So, you know, a lot of times, especially with vegetables, we have some familiarity with what those seeds should look like. It's also good to remove any debris that might be in there or any cracked or broken seed. or shriveled, say cracked seed, broken seed, seeds that are shriveled, or just don't look as large, like they're a lot smaller than the other seed because they're less likely to be viable. And Mary, I see you had your hand raised. Did you have a question?
No, I was just going to mention another seed library when you have time.
Okay, perfect. Yep. I just have a few slides and then we'll.
Okay.
So other great things to do if you do have the capacity to do germination tests, especially, as we learned, like they do in Ashe County, you're collecting your own seed and sharing large numbers of seed. We want to make sure we're giving people seeds that are viable, so they have a good or a better likelihood of success, and they have a good experience and they aren't discouraged. It's pretty easy to do these viability tests, especially with vegetable seed. And you can do it with paper towels. You can just have some damp paper towels, kind of wring out the extra moisture, and then place the seeds on the paper towels. A minimum of 10, but you could do up to 100 because we're talking about like percentage. So if you do 100, you just count how many germinated, and that's your percentage. And place those in a warm place out of direct sunlight. And depending on the variety, you start checking them after a day or two. Some things certainly take longer than others to start germinating, so you'd want to look that up for the variety, and count how many have sprouted to figure out, what the percent is. And we've already, there were some questions about this, and we've touched on it some as well in the discussion, is focusing on open pollinated varieties. And these are going to come true to type when they're isolated from other varieties of the same species, which will still be necessary to prevent cross-pollination. And as Travis was talking about, and Blake, it's really going to vary on the variety. Some things like pumpkins, the cucurbits, especially the pumpkins and the squash, they are notorious cross-pollinators, and the bees work the flowers, so they can move that great distances. So it's going to take more distance, either whether it's geographical difference, like you space them out over actual space, or the other one is chronological isolation. So we grow one at one time of the year and one at a different time of the year, so they're not blooming at the same time. So that's one way to isolate them. Although, of course, you'll want to do some research on what's required for the type of crop you're growing and want to save the seed, and we'll definitely include some references on that with our follow-up resources. Another option is bagging the flowers, but that often requires some hand pollination, because if you put bags over the flowers, that means the pollinators can't visit them, so they won't be pollinated unless they are, potentially self-pollinating. So that may be a little more work than it looks like initially, just to bag the flowers off. All of the heirloom varieties are open pollinated. So, if it's an heirloom variety, it would be open pollinated. Species are open pollinated. So for example, like if you just were growing just the species of purple coneflower, Echinacea purpurea, you would be able to save those and share those as purple coneflower. But hybrid varieties do not come true to type. And they may have issues with being proprietary. Some of those are registered or trademarked. And then last of all is just making sure your labeling is accurate when the seeds get distributed. At a minimum, having the plant name, that includes the common and scientific names, the variety, the name of the variety, and the year harvested. So we have, an indication of how fresh the seed are, and the source, whether it came from a locally saved location. The picture here is just something I found online, somebody who was actually selling on Etsy, pre-made labels that you could order from them. But one thing that is important is if you are getting seeds donated from a company and they're sending them to you in large lots rather than individual packets, this is a recommendation from the Department of Agriculture, is be sure to include all the information that's included on that bulk label seed on the label you put on when you repackage those seeds. So the source, the germination percent, all of that information, be sure to pass that along. And you can add additional things like growing information, a website where they can learn more, the contact information for the local extension office or extension master gardener volunteers. So don't miss out on the opportunity to make that educational contact with people as well. Okay, so that was my kind of wrap up best practices I wanted to share, and then to just let everybody know that, of course, the recording will be available. It'll be posted on our EMG intranet site, and that's where we'll also have our resource document where we'll collect all of the things we've been mentioning and have links to them for you there. Also on the EMG intranet site, you can learn about future webinars, and we already have our next one planned. It's November, well, almost planned. We have 2 dates narrowed down, November 28th or 29th, and the focus will be on native plants and wildlife habitat education. We know we're going to have 2 groups presenting. We'll have the New Hanover County program with their Nature at Home certification program, and we will have Master Gardener volunteers and the agent Sarah Christus from Caldwell County to talk about their native plant initiative. So we're very much looking forward to that. We have a survey posted on the site as well where you can volunteer to speak at a future webinar if you'd like to, or you can just let us know about things you'd like to learn about, so you can suggest topics. And that is my wrap up. So we can go back to any additional questions. I know we are right at 2:30, so we appreciate everybody who's joined us today, and especially all of our speakers. And you know, we'll be following up with the recording and the resources that you can share with others who weren't able to join us today. But I'm happy to stay on certainly for a few more minutes if we have some continuing questions. And I have to get my chat back open to see.
It looks like Mary Staubel has her
Yes.
hand.
Yes. I'm a master gardener in Mecklenburg County, and I'm also a member of the North Carolina Native Plant Society, the Charlotte chapter. And I just wanted to share that we have a seed library at Reedy Creek Nature Center for native plants. And one of the educators is doing that. And Reedy Creek Park also has a Center for Biodiversity Studies. So they are trying to document plants that are in our region. And one of the things that a lot of people aren't aware of is that many plants that you buy in nurseries are cloned. So you don't have the genetic diversity. And growing things from seed, you really increase that genetic diversity and resistance. So a lot of people that are native plant enthusiasts really encourage growing things from seed. So anyway, I just wanted to add that.
Thank you, because so often we talk about seed libraries, the focus is on vegetables, but yes, that's a wonderful example. It's great to know about a seed library focused on native plants.
Thank you.
All right, I am scrolling, and I'm sure Sally's also scrolling through the chat to see if we have missed anything.
I had one at the end. I don't know if it made it in or not. I was wondering what that bag was on that plant when you were collecting the seeds in that picture, that one. What is that?
Yes.
Is that?
It's like a really fine mesh. So air still flows through. You know, you wouldn't want to put a plastic bag. It would get too hot and it would trap moisture in. You could get botrytis. So it's like a fine mesh.
So what can you make that out of?
What's it called? Toil? Is that the right word?
Boil?
The bags. Muslin?
Yeah, muslin would work, or I think it's called toil.
I was wondering if cheesecloth would work, or is that too coarse?
I expect it would work. You know, it just needs to be big enough to keep the pollinators from being able to get in.
You know what I thought about? You know that ribbon that you buy that's like a woven, transparent, colored ribbon that's about maybe 2 or 3 inches wide. They sell like to make wedding decorations and stuff like that. I was wondering if you could use that to make bags.
If you could use tulle, you mean?
Yeah, tulle.
I don't know what
tulle.
It is.
That's what I was trying to say before.
I think some of the little bags I see like that. I'm not sure if this is the correct way, but they're little organza bags. They're like the ones you can buy them online, or you can buy them at any of the crafting stores.
Okay.
They're like the ones you would get little favors in or little gifts in, kind of thing from a
Right,
a
right.
wedding like that.
Yeah, so I think that ribbon is organza, actually. I was just looking at it in my drawer. I have this like turquoise ribbon that I got for a wedding or something. And I was thinking, gee, I bet I could double that over and make a bag. So, okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what it was. I just wanted to confirm what would be workable.
You
Yeah,
can
you
buy
want something
those
that,
bags online.
oh, good. Thanks, Debbie.
Yeah, you can buy them online.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. Needs to have good airflow, but not holes so big that the pollinators can get in.
And what about the seeds that have like have a fleshy coating around it, like some passion flower seeds I collected a few days ago. What does one usually do? Just wait for it to sort of dry up, or plant the seed with the fleshy stuff on it if you wanted to use it, or what?
Yeah, Julia entered in the chat to look up wet safe sieving. So a lot of times things that have a fleshy, fleshy flesh around the seed itself, you don't just let it dry on, because that can inhibit germination depending on the species.
Right.
A lot of times you put it in some water and let it kind of ferment and get real nasty, smell nice, and then you could clean it off much easier. So
we do that process with tomatoes and cucumbers. It's the same way. You can use a mason jar and a piece of paper towel with the screw lid top. You put them in the mason jar. You can put a little bit of water if you need to in there, and usually about 2 to 3 days. Put it in a closet. You'll need to swish it around twice a day to prevent mold from growing on top. Into that, put it in a strainer, rinse it off, and then lay it on a paper towel to dry.
They're like growing sprouts.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. I haven't done it with vegetables. I've mostly been familiar with doing it with some of the native woody plants that have a berry or a fleshy fruit. So.
Okay. Time to get out and get gardening.
Yes, beautiful day for it. Well,
Yeah.
thank you again to everybody, and thank you, huge thank you to Sallie for helping pull this all together and for running our webinar today. And we look forward to seeing everybody at the end of November for our next Learn, Grow, Share showcase.
Sounds good. Thank you all.
Thanks.